Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to literally swatting flies. Is like almost becoming like a second feature of this channel right now, and certainly it certainly it keeps me active because I cannot stand flies, and dead is where they deserve no home, and dead is the best thing you could do for them. So excuse us. Now we move on, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we're not really moving on. We're actually moving all the way back to the original release of Dark Souls. Well, specifically, the Artorias and the Abyss DLC. Now, why have I not talked about the first game's score up until now? It's because I think there are some things about the OST for certain bosses that I'm not really sure if there's much I can talk about. I could talk about how the gargoyles for both Dark Souls 1 and 2 is really good because it's frantic and it feels like a very particular sort of duel when you fight gargoyles on the top of rooftops. But again, there's not really too much else to say without actually going into detail about how you fight the gargoyles themselves. Well, at least in the first game. The second one is a bit of a cheese board of a mess, to be honest. I mean, I like it just fine, but it's still kind of it's just a DPS test. It's not particularly that special. Now, with that being said, however, there are certain tracks that actually I can say quite a few things about. Gwyn, Lord of Gwyn, for example, has got a very iconic score to him in Pling Pling Plong, but there are other things I could talk about as well, far more interesting, and then we'll probably even be able to lead up to Gwyn. I mean, the Centipede Demon, both the Asylum Demon, the Stray Demon, the Demon Fire Sage, the Capra Demon, some of them I don't really have much to say about, and some of them just aren't really worth mentioning anyway for their score. The Bed of Chaos, ironically, has a really, really good score, but it's let down by anyone who knows anything at all about that fight. But so that's kind of we're almost going straight into the Artorias and the Abyss DLC, and to what I alluded to last time is the first actual dragon you fight in the first game. Now, again, I say first proper dragon because the Gaping Dragon doesn't really have it doesn't particularly look like a dragon. It has wings and scales, I suppose, but not much else. I mean, you can cut off its tail and you get a really, really cool weapon, but that's it. Seath the Scaleless kind of has the same problem. It's just a slow-moving blob with tentacles that you could cut off and you could get the Moonlight Greatsword from it. But it's just... the lore behind Seath is far more interesting than actually having to fight him because he's just kind of slow and his moveset is a pretty unpredictable and slightly janky hitbox to it. Which is why when you actually get to face Kalameet, this is sort of it sets up potential for the rest of the series when it comes to dragon fights. Because one thing I'm going to sort of just talk about the sort of mechanics about the actual fight is that Kalameet has this special ability where he puts a hex on the player and all damage that you take from it afterwards is doubled. In fact, it's even when you even beat Kalameet, you do obtain what's known as the Calamity Ring, which is literally, if you put it on, you take double damage. And there's no reason to use it if you feel like the game is being too easy on you. Which, by that point, you may have travelled halfway towards fighting Manus, and, well, if you actually are going to go out of your way to fight Manus with the Calamity Ring on, you do not deserve a home either. Your home is wherever the flies go. And that's just about everything else. And, well, I think it's time to actually talk about the OST itself. So, here we go. You fight Kalameet at basically the bottom of a dried up river. He has one wing that is basically let him be almost bound to the floor. And he emerges round the corner, and this is what it sounds like. Because, like I said before, when it comes to like fighting Fortissax, it builds up an air of you're fighting something substantially much more intimidating than before. Because the Gaping Dragon isn't particularly intimidating. It's only intimidating because of its size and its health. And Seath isn't particularly very intimidating because he looks kind of unpredictable. But Kalameet fights and has the sort of attacks relative to its strength and to its position as a dragon. That's the sort of thing that makes Kalameet stand out, is that you're fighting a dragon still basically when the Age of Fire was still fairly new and not all the dragons had been completely wiped out from the face of the earth. Actually, an interesting revelation I did have about the music for it is that it even almost sounds like some sort of bizarre, like it's almost like a calling to like even the war of the lords between the everlasting dragons, from Gwyn's bolts piercing the stoneless scales to dragons having to fight back to Gwyn's army of black knights all having to slay anything that comes in their way. I think there is something meant to be like almost calling up a sense of war that's all bounded to maybe like the possession or even some of the things that maybe Kalameet has seen for itself. And it's even now, when I look back on all of this, it's fantastic how like just all these things can come together when you think you know it all when it comes to these games, and then you realize that there's probably even more coming, and that is fantastic. It makes the game getting better and better and better every single time you do it. And with all that being said and done, I hope all of you guys have enjoyed this reaction to the OST for Kalameet, and I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye for now.